So it's the 3 April 2024 editorials. People are losing control over phones, written by Sushant Sinha, has done his PhD in computer science from the University of Michigan and currently runs the Indian Kanun website, that is search engine for Indian law. People are losing control over phones. The internet was designed to evolve in a distributed fashion. Individual machines which were connected to the internet were given the power to decide who people should talk to for a service in which they are interested. In the entire design of the network layer, there were no gatekeepers except for very basic functionality such as allocation of internet protocol addresses and root servers for resolving top level domains like .com, .org and .net. Anyone could connect to the internet and start providing or consuming a service. As a result, the internet saw the internet saw the internet saw rapid growth in the 1990s and 2000s. Many services such as emails, websites, and chats came up. Many services such as emails, websites, and chats came up and became an important part of the internet ecosystem. They enabled the sharing of information and e commerce. To access a website, all we needed was a web browser. The standardization, the standard, the standardization, standard, the standardize the standardization the standardization of protocols and languages made this easy. In the beginning, Yahoo provided a directory of websites under various categories. As the number of websites exploded, a search engine, Google, came up to quickly provide a list of web pages that matched our search queries, ceding control. And then came mobile devices. When Apple came up with the iPhone, everyone began porting their websites so that these sites could be easily viewed on small handheld devices. Apple also urged third party developers to build web applications that could run on its Safari browsers. But then, developers wanted the same control over the devices that Apple had. They wanted the ability to ship native apps on these handheld devices. Apple opened the App Store for third party native code on July 10, 2008. apps are apps are software programs that can run natively on mobile phones. Running untrusted software, and that too natively, is a big security nightmare. With direct access to the machines, apps can exploit local privilege escalation vulnerabilities and get control over the devices. This is something that cannot be exploited remotely. Understanding the risk of running untrusted native code, Google's security team came up with a wonderful sandbox called Native Client in 2009. With few changes to the software, it can run safely on user devices, but none of that materialized and the app stores continue to allow apps as usual. But none of that materialized and the app stores continue to allow apps as usual. Web standards, on the other hand, evolved into accepting JavaScript as a safe enough language to do client side computing. Supported by browsers, it became the standard for running untrusted software on users' machines. It presented a decent sandbox that eliminated a lot of security threats so that people could browse untrusted websites without much danger. Over time, JavaScript matured, hardened, and presented a decent way to run untrusted code. But business loved the apps. It meant they could run their native code on millions of machines unhindered. They started pushing their users to install their apps rather than providing their services through the standardized browser. The users were told that the apps would provide a far more immersive experience than a website could ever give. The gatekeepers, app stores try to allay the fears of users that these apps are safe. Yet, newspapers are filled with stories on how app stores contain apps with malware or commit financial frauds or even steal private information. Apps were wonderful for everyone except the users who have been at the receiving end of various unscrupulous apps. Developers can publish their apps on app stores and get users to install their apps on their phone just because the app stores say they are safe. A decade ago, I had highlighted these security issues with the apps and why web browsers are a better alternative. But people loved apps, businesses loved apps, and now the app stores love apps because they can impose an app tax ranging from 15% to 30%. The businesses which loved apps for the control they got over the users are now enlarged. They believed that they had only signed up to get control over the users and not to share revenue. Antitrust cases have been filed across the globe against organizations such as Google for abusing their dominant position. Even when Epic Games won its court cases, there was little succor as Apple kicked out Epic Games from its App Store. Google lost its Play Store case against the Competition Commission of India, which ruled the Google is abusing its dominant position and fined it 1,337 crore. But Google came back with a rehashed version of the app tax, calling it user choice billing, and started removing apps from the Play Store. A raging battle. The battle between businesses and app stores the battle between businesses and app stores is far from being settled, is far from being over, was another term which comes up frequently, repeatedly. So you should be mindful of this term. The battle between businesses and app stores is far from being settled. It seems unlikely that the app stores will easily leave out the lucrative revenue coming from the app tax. Instead of rethinking whether we need to go back to web services accessible on a web browser, businesses want an app store that doesn't have any app tax. Some have even advocated an Indian app store in a national spirit. Irrespective of how this battle between app stores, businesses, and courts pans out, it should be clear to the users that apps are not the way they should have chosen to access internet services. The immersive experience was drowning the users earlier and is now drowning businesses. In the end, there will be only two winners, the ones that control the app stores, Apple and Google. Okay, the second article talks about poll campaigns in India must reflect climate issues. Written by Shekhar Mande, is a former Director General, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research (CSIR) and Secretary, Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, Government of India. Okay, let's read it. Poll campaigns in India must reflect climate issues. The State of the Global Climate Report that was released recently is cause for concern. The report by the World Meteorological Organization of the United Nations states that 2023 was the hottest year in the recorded history of the planet. Moreover, the average temperature rise from pre-industrial levels has been 1.4 degrees Celsius with a margin of uncertainty of plus minus 0.12 degrees Celsius. The temperature rise is tantalizingly close to breaking the agreed limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius by different nations. The temperature rise is tantalizingly close to breaking the agreed limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Such a rise in global temperatures, also popularly known as global warming, is definitely alarming. The WMO report, मतलब World Meteorological Organization report states that 2023 was not only the warmest year by a clear margin but also one where many records were breached. For instance, records for a rise in ocean temperatures, glacier retreat, and diminishing Antarctic ice cover were also broken. Moreover, evident sea level rise around the planet has also been observed. Consequently, the frequency of extreme weather events such as heat waves, torrential rains, and tropical cyclones has increased. It is said that public memory is short. It is said that public memory is short. However, every reader of this daily and also such events and also article, it's sure to recall extreme weather events. Such events have disrupted many activities, including agriculture, and are having a significant impact on socio-economic developments around the world. The WMO report is therefore extremely worrisome, making it imperative to trigger collective public action, something similar to what happened during the COVID 19 pandemic. Progress and mitigatory steps. As is well known, industrial progress since the mid 18th century has improved the quality of life significantly. The principal drivers of this progress have been mechanization and technology led innovations in all sectors. Loud reading. Among other things, exploitation of natural resources to drive progress has grown considerably in the post industrial revolution period. Unfortunately, the apparent progress driven by the use of natural resources has also had an adverse impact on the environment. Dependence on nature, Dependence on natural resources for energy requirements has had enormous bearing on the climate. The use of fossil fuels, for example, has led to large emissions of greenhouse gases, leading directly to the rise in global temperatures. Recognizing the gravity of the climate situation and the urgency to address it comprehensively has led to all nations agreeing in what is famously known as the Paris Agreement to holding the temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius from that in pre industrial times and pursuing efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Entered into force on November 4, 2016, it became a legally binding international treaty. Since then, many nations have taken steps to limit carbon emissions, with some notable examples in the renewable power sector. In the power sector in India, for example, the government announced the National Action Plan on Climate Change (NAPCC). The National Solar Mission was one of the missions that came under NAPCC, National Action Plan on Climate Change. India has also announced the National Green Hydrogen Mission, making a strong commitment to the energy transition plan. Thus, although the Paris Agreement has seen a positive intent of action from different nations, the latest WMO report raises fundamental questions. Have we acted too late, or are we doing too little, or have public commitments fallen short of expectation on such action plans? Elections